All right, welcome back to our four-part series, The Emotional Habits of Enneagram Types.
So excited about this triad because
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the heart.
the heart types are known for around the themes of connection, identity, image, lots of big feelings,
Woo!
wanting to make sure that our connections are okay, either connections with other people and or ourselves. And so I think because emotions talk about connections, they tend to be the most obvious for heart
Yeah.
types. And there's a lot of emphasis on the feelings of sadness and shame because both of those emotions have a lot to do with connection or the lack thereof,
Yep.
or shame specifically in feeling like you're one down or one out.
Yep.
So one outside of other people. And
Yep.
so we're going to start with our lovely twos. Can you share a little bit, as our resident two, can you share a bit more about us?
Why, yes, I can. Hello, I'm your resident two. So let's talk a little bit about twos and our relationship with sadness and shame. So as we mentioned in our intro video, we find that there's one type that overdoes, one type that underdoes, and one type that tends to have a chaotic or conflicted relationship with the emotion associated with their triad. So twos have a conflicted relationship with shame and sadness. Because we are on the positivity triad, which is a different triad, twos tend to overdo positive feelings because we want to attract people to us, right? And so this is kind of what twos are all about. We want to make sure that connection with others is golden. And we think in our brains, well, people like positive things. So we're going to be kind, sweet, generous, attractive, competent, and in an effort to seduce people to us so that we can ensure that we have good connections. Fortunately, it bites us in the ass because people aren't really connecting with us. They're connecting with the image that we put out of likability. And that inspires sadness and shame because we often don't like who we are and we feel like we have to change ourselves in order to be loved. And because we can't actually connect with people in reality because it's not us that is connecting with people. We, like our true selves, we have a lot of sadness. However, we also tend to feel very conflicted with that. We shouldn't feel sad. We shouldn't feel ashamed. That's not what positive people do. That's not what people who attract other people do. We don't do that. And so often what happens is we feel sadness and shame and other feelings, and then it comes out sideways in resentment or in anger or in isolation and withdrawal. So often, depending on your subtype, that can come out in different ways, but as a two, my experience of shame and sadness is one of conflict, is one of chaos. I don't know which way is up. I don't know how I should be. I don't know really how I feel, but I feel it in my body. And it's really hard for me to describe what I'm needing as a result of feeling those feelings. And so if you relate to me, I get it. It's a hard experience to have. But a really important thing to actually tune into when we're feeling sadness and shame because it gives us a lot of information about how we are actually hiding our true selves when we try to connect with people. And sadness and shame, maybe not exactly shame, but definitely sadness, is a feeling of like longing for something that we don't have, right? Joanne is our resident feelings translator, so I think that's correct. But it's a longing for something we don't have. And for twos, we long for that connection and we don't get it if we're leading with something that isn't authentic. So, growth challenge and the growth step for my twos here is at the end of the day, as you're winding down, I want you to think about the day and I want you to think about the different feelings that have come up for you in relation to when you've talked to somebody or when you've done things for others, which is what we tend to do. I want you to really think through the emotions you felt over that day. How did it feel in your body? What inspired that emotion? And sit with that, if only for a minute, because it's going to give you so much information about your authentic self. And that is what we're really going for.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, Joanne?
I would say that because twos have disconnected from themselves, they kind of outsource that
We do.
sadness in trying to connect with other people,
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
that's what they need,
Yep,
right?
totally. Absolutely.
And so often twos can forget about their own feelings because they're so focused on other people.
Mhm.
And so, like, I love the challenge that you gave. And
Thanks.
at least at the end of the day, like reconnecting with your own personal individual experience and be like, what went through
Hmm.
my heart?
What was
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then giving yourself a chance to actually like sit with that
Hmm.
feeling.
Yeah.
So,
No judgment either.
oh,
Just remember, as we do all of our challenges, I really encourage you not to lean into shame,
we
which is
all got our
something,
stuff.
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And I understand how hard it is, even just on a personal level. So I really want to encourage you, don't lean into shame, especially this triad. Don't judge yourself. We are all on this journey together. We all have our ish. Okay.
Yeah. Share with us about threes.
Yeah, let's talk about threes. Okay, so threes are kind of interestingly opposite of what you would envision of a heart type, right? Because whereas twos have a conflicted or chaotic relationship with sadness and shame, threes kind of just shut it down completely. It's like, bye bye feelings, bye bye sadness and shame. And the reason why they do this is because those feelings get in the way of the thing they really want to do, which is work really, really hard to accomplish goals and be super productive in order to appear successful or actually be successful, admired, and applauded. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's wild that these people are a part of the heart triad when they actually have a very distant relationship with their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, they are very sensitive people, even if they don't know it.
Yep.
So yeah, kind of try to absorb that, you threes.
Mm-hmm.
This can actually get you into trouble as you shut down your own feelings, right? Because what you do, kind of like twos, is you show up in a certain way that isn't actually you.
Mm-hmm.
But because that happens all the time, you don't really know who you are either. You've disconnected with your heart. And so there are ways that that gets in the way, right? Like instead you replace that with productivity, instead of just being, with work and success, instead of connection. And so, you kind of, in a way, you isolate yourself, both from others, but especially from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how threes get into trouble.
Yep.
Anything you'd add?
Well, in being so focused on success, but success according to what they intuit other people value.
Exactly.
It's like what happens when you actually become successful around those things and you hit those goals? Well, then what? What
It
do you
wasn't even
do?
your thing.
What do you do when you're, at the finish line and
Yep.
then you look around? It's like, well, now what?
Now what?
And so there can be this emptiness feeling that comes up for threes, and
Yep.
that's kind of a tinge of sadness. But then often threes then look for another thing to have
Another
to
goal.
pursue. So they kind of
Absolutely.
skip over that. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
notice that tendency regularly slowing down more often is actually very, very beneficial,
Yep.
though it goes the opposite direction of what the feeling, what the ego tells threes to do.
Exactly. Which is, I mean, I think a good time to introduce our growth step for threes, which is to stop. Slow down. Threes really, because they feel that the world is on their shoulders and they need to impress and do in order to, just be in the world and have connections at all with people. And with the groups they're a part of, right? Like they have a very hard time slowing down. And I think doing is a part of a three's identity, their false identity.
Yeah.
And so our challenge to you threes is to stop. If only for half an hour or an hour. I don't want productive stopping. I literally want you to do nothing. Practice what it is to be a human being rather than a human doing.
Notice how jittery you get.
Notice how nervous you feel.
That's a feeling.
That's a feeling. Exactly. Tune into the feelings that come up, even if it's anger, even if it's frustration.
Like, this is dumb.
Yeah, exactly. That's a feeling. Tune into your feeling, and really notice what happens when you pause. I think the last thing I'll just say is most of my threes come through my door because they've burned out. And that is really the danger that can come for threes not stopping.
Yeah. So if you're going to have to deal with your feelings anyway,
might as well be efficient.
You may as well do it on your terms and on your own timeline.
Yeah, I feel like that's
Instead
more
of after the fact.
efficient. Threes really like efficiency. Yeah. Cool. So good luck, threes. We love you.
Mm-hmm. And see, the last type in the Heart Triad are fours. And a lot of fours are known for their big feelings. And I would say that of the heart types, fours tend to overdo that, whereas twos have a more conflicted relationship with their feelings, threes disconnect or underdo that. Fours tend to definitely identify with the message, I am how I feel. And this shows up in, for example, how they engage work. Often their work patterns depend on their mood. Like, do I feel like doing this? Yes or no? Or do I want to go do something else? Or, they tend to like shift because within themselves, their emotions are kind of like this. There's always some kind of shifting and never any settling. And that's because fours tend to resist acknowledging their own goodness and how they belong. So even the fours do feel the full range of feelings more directly compared to other types, tends to be skewed more towards the negative feelings. And when it comes to the instincts and subtypes, especially for fours, there's such a huge variation between the instincts.
Yeah.
Where what all three subtypes of fours, the self-preservation, the social, and the sexual four, have in common is a focus more on the negative feelings. Each of them have kind of like a next in line feeling that tends to show up more directly. So I would say that the sexual fours are the angry fours, but their anger isn't the kind of anger like eights. Eights are more about like expanding and making sure that their will is done. Fours are more like, oh yeah, you hurt me, like I'm gonna make you suffer. Yep. So it's more their pain, their shame, their sadness that gets projected out as anger. Social fours are the sad fours. They tend to overdo sadness. Yeah. Everyone and their mama knows that a social four is sad. And this kind of gets in their way because for them, depression is actually a defense mechanism. It's not a result of them feeling pain. It's a way for them to keep themselves stuck. Yep. Saying like, woe is me, everything is going to fall apart. Like I'm so tragic and all that kind of stuff. So not to downplay like actual legitimate sadness that fours can have, we need to recognize that some of our feeling patterns are actually overly taking center stage in ways that are actually detrimental for us. Self-preservation fours tend to not be known as fours, or you can't quite tell from the outside, but they're still feeling driven. So those who are closest to them know that they still do according to what they feel. Yes. And so for self-preservation fours, there's kind of a locking in of their feelings similar to ones and threes, so they can be super productive, but it's still centered around this message of there's something wrong with me. I'm fatally flawed and irredeemable. I need to make up for this lack. And so the main emotional pattern across all fours is the sense of loss. It's as if something important to me, I don't have it. It's out there somewhere. I got to go find it. So the main growth recommendation for all fours is to find out that you actually have some goodness to you too. Yep. It's just in your blind spot. Yeah. So you'll have to ask your close people to tell you what they see in you. Don't anticipate negative. Be open for whatever that information is. And actually pause to take it in. Don't skip. Don't skip. Yeah. You think you really know yourself because you claim this monopoly and authenticity. Don't. Nope. If you have a very distorted image of yourself, other people might actually see something that's truer about you than you admit. So be open to that. Yeah. One more thing I want to add as we're talking about twos, threes, and fours, and Joanne made a great point. Every subtype kind of has their own relationship with feelings. And that's true in twos and threes as well. Sexual instincts, like we mentioned in our introduction, tend to have a more like comfortable relationship with frustration and anger. Self-preservations tend to have a more comfortable relationship maybe with sadness or numbness. And then you have social instincts that have a slightly more comfortable relationship with sadness and shame. Yeah. And self-pres also tends to be more anxious, right? More timid. Right. So I think as you engage
with what we're talking to you about, see where you land, also in subtype, and that will flavor the emotion as well. As the main emotion, you have these secondary emotions that may come up.
Yeah. So again, just as a summary, we have this chart here. It's called the Emotional Habits of Enneagram Types, all the 9 types and how they tend to experience the big five emotions: mad, sad, glad, scared, numb, adding in shame under sadness,
Yep.
and a little bit of bite-sized information regarding each of those habits,
Yep.
along with a more fuller description of those habits under this longer PDF guide. Make sure to grab these. The links will be below. And Melinda has also offered us her guide as well.
Yeah,
Tell us a bit about that.
I have a guide for growth tips for every Enneagram type. So I've found that as different Enneagram types are exploring their feelings and the deeper healing that can come with the Enneagram, which is totally my jam, there are tasks and challenges that every type has to kind of go through in order to engage their ego and put it out of the way in order to be able to engage their more essential self. Transformation is the name of the game, y'all, and it is amazing and super hard. So I developed this guide to help give you a little kick in the ass toward that deeper growth and meeting your essential self. So I hope you download it and pick it up. All of these resources we made for you to help you and us. These are things that have helped us to grow more deeply and to, continue our transformations.
Yeah.
So,
and both of us are Enneagram therapists, so feel free to reach out if you're needing some more direct support.
yep.
But in the meantime, if you're finding that you have a lot of these big feelings, but they're kind of showing up at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you don't always have an opportunity to engage them right then and there, also grab the Big Feeler First Aid Kit. This helps you give you a little bit more time and space in the moment in a meeting or when you're on your first date, just so that you can kind of buy yourself some time and make sure to come back to those feelings at a different time so that they're not buried and then show up again at the wrong place.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So thanks again for joining us for the heart types, and our next episode will be on the head types.
Head types.
5, 6, and 7s.
Woohoo.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you then. Bye, y'all.